Picture this. You're living 50,000 years ago. The sun beats down on the dry savanna, the same sun that rose yesterday and the day before. But today, something's different. The usual sounds of the hunt, the chatter of your clan, are replaced by a heavy silence. The stores are empty. The hunters have returned with nothing. The food has run out. This wasn't a rare inconvenience. It was a constant, terrifying reality for our prehistoric ancestors. It was the ultimate test of survival. What do you do when the very source of your life vanishes? For early humans, the answer wasn't simple. It was a complex, desperate, and ultimately brilliant dance with extinction. And it's this dance that forged the path for all of human history. Let's travel back and explore this primal fear. Imagine a small group of Neanderthals in Ice Age Europe. Their entire world revolves around the massive herds of mammoth and woolly rhino. They've spent generations perfecting their hunting techniques: heavy spears, coordinated ambushes, a deep understanding of animal behavior. Their lives, their culture, their very bodies are adapted to this hunt. But then, the climate shifts. The great ice sheets retreat, the grasslands change, and the megafauna, the giant beasts they depend on, begin to disappear. Suddenly, their tried-and-true methods fail. The hunts yield less and less, until one day they yield nothing. Hunger isn't just a pang in the stomach, it's a creeping dread that seeps into the heart of the community. The children are weak, the elders are frail. The strong hunters, once the providers and heroes, now face the shame of failure. This is a crisis that threatens to tear their world apart. So, what's the first, most primal instinct? Move. Migration wasn't a casual road trip. It was a life-or-death gamble. Leaving the only home you've ever known, the sacred hunting grounds of your ancestors, was a monumental decision. They would pack their few belonging stone tools, animal hides, and set off into the unknown. Every new valley could hide a new herd, a new river teeming with fish, or it could hide rival clans, deadly predators, or just more empty land. They followed the seasons, the faint tracks of animals, the whispers of wind that might carry the scent of water. This constant movement is etched into our DNA. It's the reason humans spread from Africa to every corner of the globe. It was a strategy born of desperation. When your home can no longer feed you, you find a new one. But this was only part one of the solution. What if migration wasn't enough? What if the new lands were just as barren? This is where human ingenuity, our greatest superpower, truly ignited. When the big game vanished, our ancestors had to look closer. They had to start seeing the world not just as a hunting ground, but as a pantry. This is the birth of the broad-spectrum revolution. Think about it. Instead of just focusing on that one big mammoth, they started paying attention to everything else. Suddenly, the world became a buffet of possibilities. They learned to track smaller, faster animals like rabbits and birds. This required new tools, new strategies. They developed snares and traps, clever devices that could hunt even when the hunters were asleep. They crafted smaller, sharper projectile points for spears that could be thrown with greater accuracy. They looked to the water. Rivers and coastlines, previously just obstacles or sources of drinking water, became new hunting grounds. They carved hooks from bone and antler. They wove nets from plant fibers. They built weirs to trap fish in tidal pools. The discovery of shellfish was a game changer. Coastal middens, basically ancient garbage dumps, are found all over the world, piled high with millions of discarded shells. This was a reliable, stationary food source that didn't fight back. You just had to know when and where to look. And it wasn't just about meat. The plant world opened up in an entirely new way. The women of the clan, likely the primary gatherers, became brilliant botanists. They learned to distinguish between edible and poisonous plants through generations of trial and error. Deadly but necessary science. They discovered which roots were rich in starches, which berries were packed with vitamins, and which nuts could be stored for the lean months. This knowledge was power. They developed tools to process these new foods. Grinding stones, or mortar and pestles, appeared. Why? To crush tough grains, to grind acorns into a digestible flour, to detoxify certain plants that were otherwise inedible. They were essentially inventing cooking and food processing from scratch. This wasn't just about filling their stomachs. It was about unlocking more calories from the environment than ever before. It was a massive leap in efficiency. This shift had profound consequences. A diet based on a wide variety of smaller food sources is more stable than one dependent on a few large, mobile animals. If the deer aren't around this week, maybe the fish are biting or the berries are ripe. This stability allowed for something revolutionary, staying in one place for longer. The relentless wandering began to slow down. Semi-permanent settlements started to appear, especially in resource-rich areas like river valleys and coastlines. And with settlement came new social structures. The knowledge of plants, fishing spots, and trapping techniques became as valuable as the strength of a hunter. The roles within the community diversified. The elders, the keepers of this vast environmental knowledge, became even more respected. Sharing and cooperation, always important, became the absolute bedrock of survival. You couldn't be an expert in everything. One person might be a master flint knapper, another a genius at reading tides, and another an encyclopedia of edible plants. The clan wasn't just a family, it was a team of specialists. This period of intense innovation, born from the terror of starvation, laid the final groundwork for the biggest revolution in human history. Agriculture. Think about it. Once you're settled in one place, intensively gathering wild grains and observing their life cycles year after year, it's a very small leap to think, hey, what if we planted these seeds ourselves, right here next to our camp? The deep knowledge of plants, the tools to process them, and the more sedentary lifestyle were all necessary prerequisites for farming. The crisis of hunger didn't just teach us how to survive. It taught us how to build a new world. So, the next time you walk through a grocery store, surrounded by an overwhelming abundance of food from all over the world, take a moment. Remember your distant ancestors, staring at an empty landscape with hunger gnawing at their bellies. It was in those moments of sheer desperation that they didn't just find their next meal. They found new tools, new knowledge, new societies, and ultimately, a new future for all of us. The empty pantry of the past is the reason our own are so full today. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey back in time fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about our incredible human past. See you in the next one.